Hello there my friends and welcome to another Patreon exclusive lesson. I'm honestly super excited about this one since it's about picking technique, one of my and also your favorite topics on the platform. But this one is not gonna be about shredding and playing super fast that much because you guys and girls voted for the topic of phrasing on the lesson wishlist for this month. So instead of giving you the usual cryptic phrasing advice, like letting your lines breathe a bit more, I want to show you an exercise concept and a workout that I prepared especially for you. This is something that I'm working on right now in my personal practice routine. And it has recently allowed me to come up with more original and really cool phrasing ideas. So this is finally something systematic when it comes to phrasing that you can and should practice every day. So let me show you what this is all about right away. This is the first alternate picking sequence I wrote for today's lesson. So that sounds kind of cool. It's like an alternate picking etude. If I would speed it up a bit more, it would be a cool shredding solo. But if you worked a lot on alternate picking and on exercises and licks like this, your ears will recognize the structure of this solo and you can kind of guess where it's going next. So although this one is a great exercise for your picking technique, since it includes so many different patterns, I'm kind of following a formula with it and it's not that interesting. So let's apply an awesome phrasing trick together right now. I will play the exact same notes in the exact same order. I'm not changing anything about this sequence. There's just one tiny detail I will be adjusting. Let's see if this sequence sounds a bit more original to your ears. Okay, so if you have a similar taste and similar ears to mine, that immediately sounded more interesting and it gets a bit harder to actually follow the melodies and to predict where they are going. And if you looked at the tabs scrolling at the bottom of the video, you could see that I was playing the exact same sequence, but I was just starting it on the offbeat. So I was beginning with an upstroke because I'm starting on the second note in the measure. And that way the entire sequence shifted on the offbeat. So all the notes and the obvious accents that aligned with the click in the first sequence are now placed on the offbeat and not just on the 8th note offbeat, which is quite common on the 16th note offbeat. Before I end up talking about this too much, allow me to play it once again for you. I will play both sequences a bit faster right now, so we're moving from 50 to 70 beats per minute. Try to really concentrate when you're listening and watching this right now, because I want you to understand that I'm really just playing the exact same solo. The only thing that changes, and this is where things get really tricky once you start practicing this, is the picking pattern, of course. As I said, because of the syncopated start of the second sequence, I'm starting with an upstroke, so the entire picking pattern basically turns around. Of course, you can also take some liberties with the picking pattern here and there. Maybe I even did that when I played it a bit faster. You can also work with economy picking. The main theme with today's exercises is simply taking your usual licks that you play over and over again and just adding a syncopated twist to them, because that way you don't have to learn any new licks or any super advanced phrasing concepts. You can work with your current repertoire and with your absolute favorite licks, and with this small trick you immediately make them so much more interesting and really advanced sounding. Okay, once again, as you could hear, the exact same notes, but the patterns suddenly sound much less predictable and much more exciting. And this doesn't just apply to this one exercise and alternate picking pattern. You can and should do this with any guitar solo you wrote, because if you're honest, it's kind of a bad habit to always start on the one and to always kind of work with repetitive licks and shred patterns that your audience probably heard before. So this is an instant fix for better guitar solos and also for better improvised takes. Because when you're improvising and you're forcing yourself to start on the offbeat or to play syncopated lines like this, you will also end up sounding much more inspired. And of course, you also end up with multiple ways of using one lick. So if you have one specific lick that you really enjoy right now, next time you're improvising, just try it with different starting points rhythmically, and you will be surprised by how easy it is to improve your phrasing. It's not about learning thousands of new licks. Often it's really just about being a bit more creative rhythmically. Okay, so far so good, but how do you actually practice this? First of all, as always, I made video play alongs, backing tracks with and without my guitar profiles and PDF tabs, especially for you. You can find all the files in this post. I included a Google Drive folder and a Dropbox folder. And the way I suggest working on this is not just jumping on the more interesting version right away. I really recommend starting with the first, more boring sequence, because once you have that one under your fingers and in your ear, you will see that it's incredibly hard to move the entire thing on the offbeat. So to just take the entire sequence and move it a little bit to the right. Of course, it's a total mind warp when you do it for the first time, because you're so used to how the sequence originally sounds. And aside from the picking and technique benefits, this is great for your ears, because this will teach you that you can hear and play phrases in multiple different ways. Usually when we are learning picking etudes, licks, guitar solos, we usually don't really think about how they would actually sound like when we experiment a bit with the timing. And as far as timing and rhythm exercises go, I don't think there's anything much harder and more challenging than taking a lick or riff that you totally internalized and then completely changing up the timing and moving it on the offbeat, for example. At first it feels totally wrong to do this and your brain is really fighting you about it, but please trust me on this, the more you practice like this, the better your phrasing will get. So to quickly sum it up, please download all of your files right now. Start by learning sequence number 1, either with the guitar profile or with the PDF tabs. Take your time and memorize everything until you can play to the slow video play along that I recorded for you at 50 beats per minute. If you're an experienced picker or intermediate player, you can also work with the 70 BPM version right away. Or if you really like the sound of this one and you want to make this a technique workout, you can also work with the guitar profile and set the tempo to 200 beats per minute if you want. So it doesn't matter what your current skill level is. In this first phase, I really want you to memorize and internalize this sequence. And once you can play through the entire thing without thinking too much and without making too many mistakes, that's the exact point where you're switching to sequence number 2. And please don't worry if it's quite hard at the beginning. As I said, it's quite a mind warp. Once you're able to understand, play and hear the second sequence correctly, you can also start going back and forth in your practice routine between those two examples. And after you did all that, maybe after a week or after 2 weeks, I really want you to experiment with your own phrases. So as a homework exercise, I want you to write your own alternate picking, economy picking, sweep picking etude, anything technique-wise that you want to work on. Or to do the minimal effort, you can just take a lick that you really like. And I want you to displace your section rhythmically. Honestly, this is the best phrasing approach that I ever came across. And I hope you have tons of fun practicing this and working on this. So download all of the files that I made just for you right now. Start practicing and don't forget to have an awesome day. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.